How about now?
Judy Cady, President, Friends of the Mustangs. I've been with the club for 38 years. Been taking care of the book class, and I've been president the last 4.5 years. But I am stepping down. I think it's time somebody else took over, which George Brown Eyes, if you know who he is. He's my vice president. He's one of the clinicians over there. And in fact, this picture, I think, is right here, right there, the funny shirt.
Yeah, on the bottom.
Anyway, he's agreed to take over so that I can step down and just, all I want to do is be working up here. So, my compadre.
I'm Jerald Bond. I've been in the Friends of the Mustangs for about 6 months. But my wife and I have hiked extensively through the Little Book Cliff area, especially around wild horses, for the last 15 years. And we've enjoyed watching the horses and become attached to the horses, learning their names, learning their little personalities. Every horse has their own personality, and it's fun to see them all in their own native habitat.
So the first Mustangs that I rode for many years were off the book cliffs. One of them was a little black mare, and she ruined me because we could go anywhere. And she was always in control. And I would shoot her up, steep stuff, and she would just scramble till she got up there. She never gave up. And, I was just amazed at the endurance, and they were smart, and I just really enjoyed riding her up there because it was a dream come true when I was young. I mean, I was in my 30s when I started doing this. I'm not much older now. But anyway, and then I adopted my first one, Bill. He grew to be really big, but he was so laid back. And so we took jumping lessons and dressage, and we just had a good time. Up here, he was sometimes he was a little too laid back because he questioned my authority. I would say, Bill, I need to go up that. And do I really have to? Yeah. But, so I say that horses are 3 colors: evergreen, true blue, solid gold. Bill hit solid gold because I had a black dog that gave out on me. And the gal, I had to get Bill from this gal, and she had an English saddle on him. And I had to make him stand by something while I went around and got my dog. And this is like an 80-pound dog. And I got Gus up on top, and then I had to jump on the back. And it took everything I had to hold Gus on that English saddle. And so it's like, Bill, you got to get me back to the trucks. And you know what? It just always seemed like they knew when I was in trouble. Bill especially. Even going up muddy stuff, and I'd be stuck, and he'd be slipping, and I remember going, Bill, you gotta get me out of here. I sent him up, grabbed his tail. I had another one behind me I was fighting off. Chester just lost it. But anyway, I grabbed the tail, and Bill just dug and dug and dug until we got up to a spot. Chester shot past me. I was about to kill him. Anyway, but they just always seemed to know when I was in trouble. And they always got me out of it. So, and Beauty was the same. We had thunderstorms. We were coming out this way, and everything was flooded. All the dry creek beds had 2 feet of water in them. I couldn't take my horse trailer through them. And so the BLM guy was going to pick me up in Quebec. And so it's like, Beauty, she trotted all the way out. 10 miles is where we started. And she just, that draft horse trot, I mean, that's a dream in itself because you can just do it all day. But no, they've just always been there when I needed them, and it's amazing. So yeah, I love Mustangs. And that's why I spend a ton of time. There's like 20 locations that I've tapped into springs, and we run them into tanks. So the maintenance on them is ridiculous. If you've ever had horses, you know you have to maintenance on everything. But I have bears and mountain lions up there tearing everything up too. So anyway, I spend a lot of time hiking to these tanks and fixing them and exchanging them. We found out Rubbermaid split, and so now I had 9 of them helicoptered in a couple winters ago, and I've been working on the rubber ones like we were using out here because they don't freeze in the winter. Well, they freeze, but they don't break. And so I had a bunch of them helicoptered in. Another time somebody said, "What do you need money for?" All my boundary up here was crap. And all these gap fences were broke down, and I knew it, but I didn't have the money. So when that gal says, "You need money for anything?" I said, "Yeah." So I went to all these gap places and counted how many lodge poles I needed. I have a new way of doing, if you've ever been down here in Colon, Maine, you'll see my pipe fences that I hang in the gullies because they swing. And so I've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 of them up here, and I've got 3 more down there. But anyway, so I made a list of all the lodge poles I needed, all the posts, the wire, and all these PZP pipes. And then I hired a helicopter. And so we had the staging area was right here. There was 3 or 4 up this way and 1 down this way. So the guy says, "You need to show me where they're at." Well, let me tell you, I've flown in a lot of helicopters, but not like this. He went, zzz, 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 and he did that, and by the time we got to the last one, and we couldn't find it, and he's spinning around like that, and I'm like, there's a problem here. And I said, "I don't know if I can do that one that's down Maine," and he goes, "You're going." So we went down there and found that one. And he goes, "I thought you'd flown in helicopters." And I'm like, "Not like that." Because I've flown in helicopters at gathers, you know, when you're looking for wild horses. But apparently Alan took good care of me because we didn't do that quick stuff. And but anyway, and that guy was fast though. He hooked on to those bundles, and I mean they were huge bundles. And I had quite a few of them, and he took off with one, and we were standing around talking, and his buddy goes, "You better be ready." Well, he just took off, and he goes, "No, he'll be back." So every time I showed him a spot, he GPS'd it exactly. And so he was like, zzz, zzz, and he was, and I bet he delivered everything within about 20 minutes. He was quick and dropped them. And when I talked Dora into going and picking up all the straps and everything, his placement was perfect. But then I had to hire the WCCC. I hire them quite a bit because the Western Colorado Conservation Corps, because most of my people are, not me, are getting older. But they are, and they just can't do the work, and they can't hike with me. So anyway, I hire those, and so I hired like 3 crews of them to put all this fencing in for me. And so now this boundary is secure. And then we got this new area the BLM hasn't done all their paperwork, but my fence is in. So now the horses can't get out. And then I called the state director for a cattle guard one day, and within a week I had a cattle guard. So yeah, this is all secure, but I do need to check it. But anyway, I have a lot of fun up there, and I love it up there. So,
My turn?
yep.
Okay, Ginger and I have spent a lot of time, Ginger's my wife, we spent a lot of time hiking in through the Cameo area. We've hiked up Main Canyon all the way to the top where it splits into Cottonwood and,
That would be right here.
yeah, in the Pine Ridge area. And we've hiked all the way up into there. We've also hiked the entire area that's called Spring Creek Trail, all the way around.
And that would be up this way.
Yeah, it's up this way and up over the top, and then back in and around, and you come down. You go up Main Canyon, you come down Coal Canyon. Those are long hikes. Main Canyon's probably about 5 hours. Spring Creek, after you get to the top, it's probably about 4 hours back to the parking lot. But getting up there is kind of it's an all-day affair. It's pretty steep, but there's a lot of wild animals, a lot of horses, lots of horses. And the higher you get, the more skittish they are. They don't like to be real close to you. They'll kind of look, you see them looking over the top of the hill at you like, people, time to go. But they really, watching them run is fun. They're beautiful. They're very graceful. If you go into Main Canyon, they're not as spooky. They know who people are, and they let you get closer. But you never want to assume that just because they're a horse and you've been able to touch horses or get up next to horses that you have in a corral, that you should try to do that with these. These are wild horses. We've had them come up to us, where they've walked up, from me to the edge of this table, and I just back up, and they'll just keep walking to the point where, I've got 2 dogs, so they could easily stomp my dogs. They could easily get spooked and jump at me. But I've been fortunate. You find that you have certain horses that you become attached to, especially when you spend a lot of time with them. There was a paint that we really loved. He passed away last year. We'd go up there and we'd see him almost every time. And one time we hiked up and we were all the way at the end of Main Canyon, and we found a mare with her foal. The foal had been injured, and the mare was trying to coax the foal to come and walk and keep going. And the stallion was the paint, and we were taking pictures of the foal, taking pictures of the mare, and I heard something behind me, and I turned around, and this horse was standing right behind me. He was kind of looking at me. And I said to my wife, Ginger? And she didn't say anything. I said, Ginger? And I started walking, and she goes, what? She turns around, she goes, oh. So we moved off to the side, and he just kind of walks by us, just looking at us like, that was rude being in my way. So he gets over here, and then he's protecting the mare and the foal. But you get to a point where you start knowing them, you start interacting with them, they start knowing you, and they'll start coming closer and closer. But you're still a wild animal. But I'll tell you, the reward of being up there and seeing them in their own habitat is amazing. The beauty, the majesty of it, seeing 2 stallions fight is awe-inspiring, because they're trying to further, their gene line, and they are impressive animals. That's what I have to say.
What happened to the foal that was injured that when,
Unfortunately, it passed away.
oh,
I think it fell off a cliff, is what I was told. Fell off the side of the hill, got hurt, and then it passed away. There are a lot of mountain lions up there. There are some bear up there. We went hiking one time when we were hiking on top of Spring Creek Trail. We were at the very top, and there had been a windstorm the week prior. We lost the trail. We couldn't find the markers. So, just an FYI, take your GPS with you, or have a fishing license, because if search and rescue have to come and find you, at least they're paid for if you have a fishing license. Because we hiked up there and we lost the trail, and I told myself, well, if I follow southwest, I'll get back to the cars. Eventually, I'll find a way off this cliff. It really didn't happen. So we turned around, we started walking back. Well, we come walking back, and there's mountain lion prints on top of our prints. It was a big one. So we're like, ooh, okay, where is this boy? We never did see it, but it was there. And so there's mountain lions, there's bear up there. We've seen bear tracks. On that particular trip, we got down almost to the bottom. I could see the road, I could see the trail, and I'm like, well, let's just cut down this gully and we'll get there. That was my fatal mistake. I should have just stayed going the way I was. We ended up getting stuck on the middle of the cliff, about 20, little flat area, about 15 feet above the bottom of the canyon, and about 15 feet from the top of that area, and we couldn't get back out. We had to call search and rescue. Search and rescue drove up. He was like for me to the end of the building. He could see me, but I couldn't get down. And he goes, well, we'll be there in a bit. And I said, okay. So I'm figuring they're going to have to go all the way around and hike in. No, it took them 5 minutes to get to us. They have little trails up there marked that they use, that they have on GPS, that they know how to get in and out of there, because it's quite there's a lot of people get lost in there. So if you do have a GPS, use it. If not, stay in the main canyon or Coal Canyon. But they came, got us out of there, and it took us 5 minutes to get to his car by going the exact way I would have gone if I'd have stayed going straight, instead of taking my shortcut. So it's like I said, I got to see a beautiful sunset. It was amazing, it was a beautiful sunset. Search and rescue kept asking me, are you hurt? No. Are you hungry? No. Thirsty? No. Are you sure you're not hurt? Only my pride.
You know, George Decker, I think, had a lot to do with search and rescue. And he's shown me things up there that I'm still searching for. There's a hill up here with a truck bed by it that he has camping gear in it. But it's one of the longest, well, it's way out here at Monument, and I still haven't found it. But he showed me a spring right here up on the side in Main Canyon. So I named it after him, the Decker Spring, because right behind it, he showed me an old Indian camp. That guy's a wealth of knowledge. And up this one is an old cow trail. I have yet to find that, but I still search. But yeah, it was fun riding around with George Decker, because he helped run cows up there, besides all the archaeology stuff. Mm-hmm. And so he knew a lot of trails, he knew a lot of places and a lot of stories. And I do remember a roundup, him and I had rode up Spring Creek, and he wanted to go like up and come across the ridge, and I wanted to come up this way, which was fine. You know, we were looking for horses to tell the helicopter where they were. But I was on a green horse. And he says, does your horse mind if we separate? And I said, well, we'll know soon.
Is that an evergreen horse?
No, that's Beach.
Kind of new.
Beach hit True Blue. he never did hit solid gold because he didn't ever have to rescue me from myself. But he was true blue. But this was when I was first riding him and stuff. But so we split, and Beach didn't even pay attention. And pretty soon we're going up a hill, and Beach is like, "Where'd that other horse go?" But he never did do anything. But I told George, I said, if my horse throws a fit, we'll be riding together all day. But no, George was fun to ride with. And he came to almost all of our gathers. He helped with them. So he wasn't one for coming to meetings and stuff like that, but anything we did up there, he would come up, take us riding, and be there for our gathers. And
He took us to a spot that had a big humped rock, and there were fences around it, and he described something like leading them into the fence, and then they were corralled there. They couldn't see it.
well, there are several old catchments up there, and I don't know if they used. I think they used them for cows way back when. Maybe for horses, I don't know. There used to be an Indian guy up there that had cows and horses. And his horses, he had a garter brand around the back leg. He just branded them like right above what I call the knee, kind of. And then his cows, he would brand them around the tail. So if they were going away from him, he knew which ones were his, because there's that brand. But that was the old Indian guy up there, and yeah, he was up there for many years before, I think probably before George. But anyway, and I don't know who George worked for when he ran cows up there, but there's a lot of history up there, but George is amazing. He knows a lot of that history.
Well, were you raised with horses before you got involved with the wild Mustangs?
Every time I took a pulley bone and, a wishbone, I wished for a horse. But no, I didn't get involved with these until I was in my 30s. We had bought some acreage out on 21 Road, and the neighbor had 2 Mustangs. And one of them was the little black mare that I started riding. And they wanted to get rid of them, so it was buy one, get one free. And that's where I got Beauty. And so then I'm riding a Mustang. Well, you got to start going to the Mustang Club, right?
Yeah.
And, well, right away they said, "You want to be president?" And at first I didn't.
They
So
tried that with me too.
I got another gal to be president, and I was vice president, and then she got mad because it was such a long. She said, "I went 19 miles and did not find that range," and I'm like, "It was 23. Well, she got mad at us and quit. So I ended up president that time, right off the bat, for 2.5 years. And I've been president off and on through the years, but I like to be workday coordinator because I like working. Go figure. But I like working on my tanks and my fences and checking them. And yeah, I take my little trailer up every year. I park it up there.
Will the BLM contribute anything toward fence costs
Not
or
present,
water costs?
Not presently.
Because isn't it Bureau of Land Management land?
Yeah, it is. They should be. So when I first joined FOM, we had like $1,200, but in them days, BLM paid for everything we did. Well, that has changed. But I had a gal join about 7 years ago, and she knew a group up in Rifle, and some foundation, not the Cloud, but the Cloud. And she talked them into donating money. They've donated probably a couple $100,000 to us. And that's how I've done the fences. And that's how I've hired the WCCC. And so she's I still have about $70,000 of that money. So I have money to do just about whatever I want. But then we started the governor signed a bill. We started a group called the Colorado Wild Horse Working Group. We've been meeting every few months for almost 2 years. Well, so at first they didn't invite us. I call us the partner groups because we've partnered with the BLM. And so the state called us, and they didn't accept us in right away, and the state director of the BLM said, no, you need my partner groups. So they got us involved, and we all gave presentations about our range and all this stuff. And so then they said, what do you need money for? And we gave them a list. And so I have about $130,000 of that to spend. But I've got 6 ponds. There's 2 over here in North Soda, and then there's one at Indian Park, and there's one right by Low Gap, and then there's some out this way that I'm getting an estimate on right now to have them dug out, because I want to get that money spent. And then I have seeding money that I'm wanting to seed over by Monument where there was some burns, but I think they've got, I haven't seen all of the stuff, but other little pastures. But anyway, I've got money for seeding too, so man, I got more money than I've ever had.
Sounds like it.
But like the state money, I've hired the WCCC 3 times, and that's $10,000 for 1 week. But they are good workers. They don't know nothing.
How many workers?
Well, so when I did the fence job, that wasn't with state money, but I had like 3 crews of about probably 6 to 8 per crew. And this last time was just a few weeks ago. I had like 9 or 10 kids, and they work hard. I take them popsicles. They love it because you work all day, and we get back to camp, and I'm like, who wants a popsicle? They love those popsicles, but my trailer has a little freezer in it.
That's like.
So that's how I get to spoil them, but they've worked really hard for me, and I really appreciate those WCC kids.
Are your fences barbed wire or smooth wire?
No, neither.
Really?
Lodge poles.
Oh, crossed and.
Yeah, because
The horses can jump over that, can't they?
no, it's pretty close to 6 foot. They don't do there are some places I've got wire fencing, and I've been working on making it all smooth wire. But then when we got Brumby land, there was a burn right through here, and the BLM put in wire fencing, and it was trash. And it was a mess. You'd go and animals try to get through it, horses try to get through it, and it was just trash. And it was dangerous. So all last year I spent taking wire out. And then there was a camp. Some people from California came every year to hunt. And this has been 30 years ago. But I didn't realize because their camp was off in the trees, and I just didn't pay attention. But I checked it this last year. Oh my, the wire, barbed wire, metal, pieces of that metal corrugated stuff, nails. So anyway, Dora, the gal that's running all this, her and I went up there, and we had a whole truckload of stuff, and we cleaned it up, and she had that little magnet thing that we picked up so many nails. But there's just, I I've been really working hard to get all of that wire off, because I hate that wire. Before the gather, they wanted me to check an area over here in North Soda, and I thought the fence had been pulled out. They pulled out the ends. I don't know why. The middle was all there, and it was down. So when I got the WCC, we started up on the ridge and just worked our way down, and got all that wire out. And then I had two gap fences, one down here, not at Cottonwood, it was at Cosgrove, was the old boundary, but right above it was another old cow fence, and they were in the bottom, and then they went up the sides, and we pulled them out, and I bet them kids pulled out, probably 50, 60 T-posts. And so this last time I had them hike in and haul them out. So, but yeah, I was hiking. I was at one spot, and I don't know, my GPS was screwed up, and it said it was only a mile. So it's like the next day we're going to the second fence from this direction. And we were having a great time. We had my music hooked onto their Bluetooth thing, and we were just having a great time. And then we got close to it, and one of the kids looked at me and said, "That was 2.5 miles." Oh. But they carried all those T-posts out for me.
On their shoulders.
Yeah. However they could. You know what? Most of the time I would tell them what to do, because they didn't know much about putting in tanks or pipes or anything. But when it came to them T-posts, I just said, however you want. I am not going to tell you how to do it. You guys figure it out on your own. And so they did. They tried different ways, tying them together, dragging them, putting them on. But they got them out. So I got about 10 more in there I need to go get. So if you guys want to, only 2.5 miles.
Well, tell us what a gather is, and how often do they have them?
So there's a thing called AML, Appropriate Management Level. Ours is, I think, 80 to 150. So when our horses get over 150, they want to take it down near the 80 mark.
In that whole boundary area?
In that whole thing.
Oh,
One thing about our range, though, we don't have cows or sheep, any livestock. So anyway, but this last time we waited too long, actually. It's just good that I had good water a year ago, because I was up to like 220, which was way over AML. And the BLM, we had some discussions, I'll say, because they wanted to take me down below AML. And I did not want to go there. That would be below 80 horses, and I was not happy. So we had discussions, and more discussions, and Zoom meetings. And they finally agreed to take 100, but then we had some PZP that went bad, which is our birth control. They darted all these mares, and the PZP they had gotten at the BLM, they didn't put it in the freezer, and it went bad. So they darted, and it didn't work. So I ended up with all these babies last year that I shouldn't have had. So yeah, I was way over 200, and so we agreed on 100, and that's what they took off last fall, which left me about 120. We're already having foals, but we've already had a bunch of them die because of mountain lions. So, but anyway, gathers is just, this is fenced in. So you have to stick to your numbers or you're in trouble. I just got lucky that I did have good water, good rain a year and a half ago. And it sustained my 220 horses until they could pull off. Now the range looks good. The horses are fat. They look good. I only have about 120, but that's life. But that's what we do. You monitor. You don't say, I'm going to gather this year, whenever. When your range starts even showing a little bit of not good, and maybe your horses are starting to look a little thin, you kind of want to monitor it enough before that. So then you plan to gather. And, you watch your numbers, you watch your horses, you watch your range, and that's kind of tells you when it's time to gather. But when I was up to 220, I knew it was time to gather, as much as I hate gathers, because for 30-some years, we gathered. It was FOM and BLM, no gather crew. I had one helicopter pilot, Alan. For all those years, it was just us. And we did it was simple. You gather 4 days, you process, you adopt. Everything was done in a week, where now it takes months because they haul them to Canyon City.
Excuse me, did that used to be when the horses were processed, but after burning out in the consequence?
Yeah, and Grady did it for
Grady
many,
used to?
many years,
Oh,
and
he
then
did.
Burnham started doing it.
Oh,
So
Brady was before that, I see.
they would come from Canyon City, the not range guy, it would be the
Okay.
guy that was over Canyon City,
Sure.
Fran and Lona and Ted.
Okay.
They would come down here, and we would process with the local vet, and it just was such,
That makes much more sense to have smaller numbers that are pulled off at a time and they get processed locally, and as you say, that every home, you don't have all that holding period.
yeah,
And all that expense for the holding period.
yep. And it's much easier too when
And
you
it's
only
easier
have
on
a few
horses
horses to adopt out.
Yeah.
We took off 100. They only brought back about, 51 or something. It's,
It's like 49
From
of the two
Kansas
that brought from
City.
Canada.
yeah. This is not all my horses. I still don't know what they're going to do with some of them. They only brought us the 10 and youngers. The one I want is 17.
Number 17?
No,
17
he's
years old.
17 years old.
Oh!
He's an old guy. He
Oh,
was an old stud, but I'm sure he's an old gelding now. His name is Adobe. So he probably came from the Adobe area, which is right out there. But
Don't
he's,
go hard on those really old aged horses, huh?
I don't know. I broke one at 14.
You know?
He was wild 10 years. And you know what? I loved it. He did that draft horse trot. That's how he traveled, though. I don't know that I'd say I ever got him real broke, but when we were out here, we traveled. And I was going up a canyon over here one time, and there was a ledge about like this, and he was a short horse, and I overthink everything. And I rode him up to that ledge, and I'm thinking, okay, can he even jump that high? Should I get off and lead him up? Will he go up? In my mind, I'm just thinking, and poof, I was there. Whoa. It's like, why do I overthink these Mustangs? They know what they can do. I have no idea what they can do, because they surprise me all the time. So, but no, it's been fun, but it's been a lot different.
but the one that's 17, you want to adopt it?
Yep.
Is that it? Oh, you're waiting for it to come.
But he will be sales authority, which means instead of the 125 in the bidding, I'll get him it's either 25 or 35 that I'll just pay. There won't be the adoption, so I don't have to have them monitor him for a year.
Oh,
He will just be mine. I will give him $35 and he will be mine.
Because you are a friend of the
No,
Mustangs?
because it's sales authority, because he's an old horse.
Sales authority.
Yeah, so,
Oh, good.
I mean, these guys out here will be adopted. They will have to keep them for a year and prove that they can take care of them. I'm hoping we start doing compliance again, which is checking them to make sure they're taking care of them, make sure they're feeding them and they're in a safe environment and, you know, stuff like that. And then if they prove that they're good adopters, then they'll get title signed by a vet or whoever, or BLM or whoever.
Don't they still do that? Did they quit doing that?
No,
They still do that?
they still do
Okay.
that. It's just, I used to be able to sign title.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I
I don't know
thought
why
they
my
still
ranking has changed.
Well, this older horse, you're gonna do that? Not just anybody can go get an older horse.
Oh.
$30 to take it home. They gotta.
No, we've had some adoptions, they'll bring sales authority horses over.
But if they don't have, if there's, I mean, you're just paying and getting them, but not
Yeah.
just anybody could do that.
No, anybody can do it.
I think they get to the point where they just haven't been able to rehome them and haven't been able to rehome them, so that's what they do. is they-
I don't know
Which is that
how,
sale authority, the BLM gives you authority to just
sell them to anybody, they can do anything with them.
yeah,
That doesn't sound right.
that's what sales authority is.
Over age 10, you said?
I don't know what the age is for sales authority. I just know my 17-year-old
You know that horse.
will be sales authority. And I got one that we rounded up in, I think 2019 was our last gather. And some of the older ones, they brought over to the adoption and they labeled them sales authority. And I picked up a mare at that was sales authority. So things are different.
So where Adobe is being kept now, is he being kept under his name, Adobe? Will you recognize him when you see him?
I've sent her pictures of him. If you go over to the booth and we have that flyer there in the back,
Haven't been there yet.
oh, look at, there's a picture down on the lower left corner. And it has his name, Adobe. That's him. Big white blaze. Oh, blue. Yeah.
Blue roan.
I think he's a red
Is
roan.
he a red roan?
Yeah. But you never know what they call him.
Yeah.
So,
they
but
call it
anyway,
something.
yeah, if you go over there, just look at that. There's Adobe. But I've been bugging him. I've sent him pictures of him, but yeah,
You've got to be first in line for it.
yeah. She's supposed to haul him over, which he was supposed to already be here, and then he was supposed to come here. But anyway, she's bringing a horse over for a BLM person that's a West Douglas horse. And so she's supposed to bring both of them at the same time. So I should have him soon. But I'm ready. But, no, they're a lot of fun. And it's been a lot of fun being part of Friends of the Mustang, too. Just riding and working and just having fun.
And how often do you go up there?
As often as I can.
You said that.
So I was up there. I took Isaac. It was a 13-hour day. We came in, took us an hour and a half or so to get to Logap, and got the UTV, came all around over here, and went actually out, and there's a tank. Oh, it might have been this one. There's a tank out there, and it's got this really nice trail. We had to drag boards down because the framework on my tanks is way old, 30, 40 years old. And I'm trying to replace it before I age out. So anyway, that's like one of the hardest to get to. So Isaac's like, okay, I'm game. He had no idea what he was getting into. And so I had all these boards, and we got out there, and we dragged them down off the hill. I had to find the trail because I hadn't been there in years, and we got down there, and I was beat.
Now, is Isaac a horse or
No,
your padre?
Isaac is my BLM guy.
Oh, good. You weren't alone.
Yeah, I wasn't alone. So anyway, we got it all fixed up and replaced and everything, and then he's like, I think it'd be easier to go this way. And if you've ever been in the book cliffs, it is hard to get around. You can't just say, I think we can get up that. But that's what he did to me. I think we can get up that. And I'm like, I'd like to take the trail back up. So anyway, we're over here hunting and pecking and throwing dogs up. And, he'd catch them and drag them up and climbing. I'm hooking my shovel on things and doing this. And then his dog decides, I'm done. I'm going back down. So then he had to go back down after his dog. And his dog's like, I'm done. And so they finally got up, and we got up to a spot, and I was just passed out. And he goes, I got to get my dog to the UTV because he needs water. And so he zipped over, and I just kind of moseyed across the top, and we got to the UTV, and we just laid there. And then we went back to camp and put the UTV back in the shipping container. And we just, on the picnic tables, just laid there. And finally we went out, and we got started at 6:30 and got back out at 7:30 that night.
When you got back, were you on horses to 7:30?
No, we were driving.
On a pickup?
So took my truck in, and then we used the UTV is real easy to zip around up on the range, and it's really fun. But except,
Not as fun as a horse.
I don't know.
That's what?
Not as fun as a horse.
Oh,
We got to one spot
I
that
don't know.
I know these roads really well. And there was one spot I always worried about with the UTV because I'm not as brave on that UTV as some people are. When it gets real rocky and I knew I was coming to that spot and my heart rate just was shooting up. And I said, Isaac, man, I know that spot's coming up because my heart rate is going nuts right now. And he's like, well, I'll drive. Oh, okay. So we switched, and he drove down it because the roads are bad too. The roads, the trails, the mountain, it's tough terrain. It really is, but it's an adventure.
So when you were taking that shortcut, were you on horses or were you on foot there?
Well,
Or you
lately
didn't
I've
go
been
back on the trail.
I'm on foot.
Oh.
I used to ride a lot, and I have a lot of shortcuts around because I would study these maps,
Yeah.
and I think, surely I can get down there. But I have shortcuts, but people go down them once with me on horseback, and then they're like, never again. And I don't like city horses, really, on my shortcuts, because when it gets real tough like this is, they get nuts. Where your Mustangs, they're just like, oh, you want me to go down this? You want me to climb up this? Beauty would just scramble till she got up there. And I rode partway up one of my shortcuts and tied Bill up, because Bill's one I told you would question my authority. What do you mean I gotta climb up that? So I tied him up, and I hiked up, and it was pretty tough. And I kept thinking, it's no wonder nobody wants to go with me. And I climbed out on the top, and I laid there going, I don't think I want to go with me anymore. I was so tired, and I wasn't even to the tank yet. But it's been crazy. But
How
I try
long-
not.
How long ago was that? Is that
Oh,
recent?
that was probably about 20 years ago.
Oh, okay.
So, and I've been doing this for 38.
To show you,
Pretty cool.
this is kind of I'll get a picture here.
No, and which one? This is a blue roan.
That's a blue roan. I want to say that's
So,
Snoopy Jr.
if you see, we have this horse here is a blue roan. That's our signature horse. They took him off. His name's Azure,
Azure. I might
I'm
have
sure
Azure
that's
too.
blue.
and they took him off,
Look
but
at
they
the front
didn't
muscle.
bring him
Look
back.
at the muscle tone around that front.
Oh, yeah, his chest.
His chest area.
How old is he here, do you think?
He was probably 12, 13.
Blue, his name's Blue Roan, or?
He is a blue roan.
Oh, his name.
So my favorite stallion I called Baron.
Yeah.
He was a blue roan. All the horses out of his white mare turned white. So Baron Jr. is the one I ride now, one of them. And he, are we done? But he, so Beach turned white, but the ones out of Baron's bay mares stay blue roan. So this lineage are out of the bay mare because they stayed blue roan. And so we had Baron, and we had Snoopy, and then we had Snoopy Jr., and then I think Azure's out of one of them. So, and then Beach's brother would be Snoopy.
So is that horse still on the range?
Not if that's Azure, he's not. They took him off. Yeah, don't get me going there. It's been an adventure, it really has. But
Sounds like it.
I've just loved it. I thrive on it. But getting involved with all these meetings with the state, and actually the state director of the BLM's been involved with us too, which is a plus. He was here yesterday, and he's had meetings with the partner groups, which there's 4 ranges, 4 partner groups.
In the whole state?
Yeah, so down by Natarita, Nucla down there, Disappointment Valley, has
Oh, yeah.
wild horses. Then there's the Book Cliffs, and then you got up Piance, which is between Rifle and Meeker,
Uh-huh.
and then up north of Maybell is Sand Wash.
Yeah.
And there's partner groups for each one. The one for Spring Creek is a little bitty, but that's okay. But yeah, they're starting to dart. And the state actually set up a darting team for us to help dart, because darting, well, especially on the book list, this is rough country. And it is hard to find the horses and get them darted. Where some of the other ones are kind of flat, but like Piance has a whole lot of horses. They really need help, so. But anyway, it's they've been bringing us all together, and that's kind of nice. And we've met with the state director of the BLM, which has been really nice too. Because when I needed a cattle guard, all I had to do was call him. It's like, Doug, I need a cattle guard. Okay, next week I have a cattle guard. But that's because I was worried about horses getting out in this area. You know, they are fenced in. We try to keep them fenced in. Because if they start getting out, that is trouble. That is trouble. So our horses need to stay on the range where they're protected to a point until we gather. But
And this west edge, are they just bounded by the edge of the cliff?
Yeah.
No fence?
this is the edge of the book cliff.
Yeah.
I have a few gap fences down here by Mount Garfield.
Uh-huh.
They need to be better. There's a trail. So you got the Mount Garfield trail that you can come up. Tellerico comes out, and that comes up on the book cliffs, and it's not fenced in. They could if they wanted, but they don't want to go out here because there's no water. They do come down and feed in the winter because there's snow. And then way here at the end, there's one called Fessler that comes up and comes onto the range. And it's got a gate. I haven't checked it in a while.
It seemed like years ago when I'd hike up to Mount Garfield, we'd see horses. Would they come into that region,
Yeah,
right there by the trail?
We had two that always came down. I think they were both dark, Boone and Sweetheart.
Can't remember, it was in the 80s.
They came down for years. And that's why we tried to get the fencing better up there. But now they've passed away, so I haven't heard of any other horses getting off.
This was a long time ago.
Yeah. So. But no, I love that map. This was the gather map. Isaac said, "You want it?" Yeah. Do I look stupid? But anyway, yeah, this was his gather map because it had the acreage of each area, and then it had the number of horses that were kind of in each area and where they needed to gather. So our biggest gather part was around Low Gap in Indian Park. We took the most horses off.
What area is Spring Canyon in?
Spring Canyon's in the lower.
Yeah, it's right
Section.
here.
By Maine?
It actually goes this way. The trail goes up this way to that. I got a tank up there. And this tank is dry, and this is one of my shortcuts. But yeah, Spring Creek comes up here. It actually comes all the way up to almost to the road coming from Monument. But that would be quite a hike.
My wife and I had spent enough time out there hiking that we thought, well, we can go hike Spring Creek, but we weren't sure where Spring Creek was. So we actually went up the valley, the gully over here,
Towards the tank.
towards the tank, and we're hiking up this area, and pretty soon we're scrambling up boulders and around the hills, and we didn't make it too far up there before we decided, I don't think this is the right way, because it wore us out just that little bit, and we turned around and came back. And my wife and I are used to some very long, very full day hikes, so that was pretty tough going right there.
There's a 100-foot waterfall right in here. It's just a little bitty trickle, but it falls 100 feet.
Yeah.
And you can see it when you come down my shortcut from the Duh. You can see it over there.
Is it year round? In the
No,
midsummer, will it run?
No, it's probably dry right now. But
Unless we had a big rainstorm.
yeah, if it had a big rainstorm, it
But
probably
you don't want to be in the canyon if there's a big rainstorm.
That sounds like a voice of experience.
I have spent a lot of time in that
No, we
canyon.
laughed there.
I was gonna ride Main Canyon once and everything was flooding, and let me tell you, it was spooky because water was coming off the sides